Hap Sharp. And of course, he's a member of the team along with Penske, and he, along with owner Jim Hall, wants very much to win this race.
In a moment, we'll go back to the Bahamas, where Pedro Rodriguez Ferrari is leading temporarily, and the pursuers include Dan Gurney and Roger Penske, now at the wheel of Hap Sharp's Chaparral. But first, let's join Jim Simpson for a visit to the Chaparral's home and an interesting insight into the car's creator, Jim Hall. We begin with Jim's answer to the question, why do you build race cars?
You do it because you enjoy it, and you think you're good at it, and you think you have a chance to show your ability. There's not too many things that you can do in the world where you can be one of a few that build, for instance, the world's best racing car.
And you consider this the world's best racing car?
Well, I don't consider it the world's best racing car right now, but I hope someday to build the world's best racing car.
Now, I understand that you and Hap Sharp have quite a layout back in Midland, Texas. What is that?
Well, it's where we build the cars, and over the years, it's just gotten bigger and bigger. We started out with a shop, and now we've got dynamometer, test track, skid pad, pretty complete facility for building this type of machine. Probably know these cars change race to race. We do a lot of modifications between races. The development work on the cars is continuous. So any minor or major modifications are done at these same times. When the cars are put back together, all the metal parts have been checked, reassembled, painted, and put back on the cars.
Which way do you want me to run?
Left. After the cars are together, we go through what's gotten to be a pretty routine test procedure for us now. We originally set the cars up on our skid pad. It's a 120-foot radius circle, paved circle that we run with the cars in both directions, and we try to balance them out where they handle the same in both directions and get the lap times down to an acceptable figure. After the skid pad work's done, then we take the car out on the track and make sure that it does at different speeds what we expect it to do from the skid pad, and that the brakes are working properly and the engine pulls as well as it should. And actually, a good lap time turned in by the car on the track here has been a real good prediction for us for the rest of the tracks around the country. We find if the car is fast here, when you go to the race, it's fast there too.
I'm sure you'll agree Jim Hall has about the perfect setup for building and testing racing cars. But of course, the real proof comes in the races themselves. And Jim Hall's cars have been very successful this season. In one of his own cars, Hall won the United States Road Racing Championship. Then Jim broke his arm in an accident in Canada, and so naturally, he will not be driving in the Nassau Speed Week final. Back at Nassau, and the story is this. Dan Gurney in a Lotus 19 Ford is in the lead. There he goes through the Pilot House corner. Penske is close behind him in second place. McLaren is third. Lap 38, 18 more to come, and something has got to happen.
$8,400. That's 800-327-8400 for the Wall Street Journal.
Now, as we head for the finish line of the 1964 Nassau Trophy race, let me confess, I would have a terrible time calling play-by-play for a football or a basketball game. And I point that out to avoid seeming overly critical of fellow announcer Jim Simpson, who is in serious trouble as we rejoin this race. Dan Gurney's notoriously unreliable Lotus is out front. Watch closely, you're going to see Dan in a fury shaking his fist at a back marker who's been blocking his line. And all the while, Roger Penske in the white 66 is running over Dan's tailpipes, trying to pass him in a spectacular late race battle for the lead. Unfortunately, poor Jim has no idea that any of this is going on, and he gets no help from his camera crew, who missed the key pass. Here's the finish from the 1964 Nassau Trophy race.
The pace is picking up considerably since the rain has disappeared from Nassau. A beautiful day now, but to the drivers more important, the track has become a lot quicker. There's Gurney, number 9. is understandably concerned. You've heard Jim speak, and we understand that the Chaparral's lap times were better in practice than Gurney's, but Penske can't get ahead. He's still running second. Well, there's a long way to go for Jim Hall. Hold it. Something has happened to Gurney's car. I beg your pardon, he could be coming in for a mandatory pit stop, but apparently not, because if he were doing that, he would simply jump out of the car and jump back in. And Dan doesn't seem to be in any hurry, although his mechanics, of course, are. Dan, if you don't know, I don't know either, but something has put Dan Gurney's car out of the race. So that means that Roger Penske has gone into the lead.
Look at the rubber joints possibly, but I think the clutch is...
And there's the sign, Dan is out. Penske now has a pretty good lead over McLaren. And by the way, McLaren still has got to make his mandatory pit stop. There's McLaren at number 5. Penske, remember, is driving Sharp's car. And they made a pit stop when the driver switched, so they're all right. McLaren, we now find out, is 21 seconds behind Penske. McLaren's car is moving very well, and he's not too far behind. Remember, he's got that pit stop to make. Comes. Now the question is McLaren coming in for his mandatory pit stop, or is there something wrong? Well, mandatory, you saw him get out and he's now back in and ready to go again, so that's his mandatory pit stop. But of course that is going to increase the lead of Roger Penske, as Bruce had a little trouble getting the engine started. He's still having trouble. As he heads back for the track, Penske officially has an 88-second lead. There is Roger Penske, very close to victory in Nassau Speedweek's biggest race in a Chevy Chaparral owned by Jim Hall. Yeah, still looks concerned. This race isn't over yet. Yesterday, Roger hit one of the course markers and knocked suspension awry, but he is driving all right now.